I was having a conversation with this gentleman and we were just going back and forth about the deal. And I really felt like it was just not working out at all. It was just getting to a point where we could not understand each other. Hi, Master Yi here. And if you are new to the channel, we are here. Coach Andrew and I are here to impact 1 million entrepreneurs through one breakthrough at a time. And today I want to share with you an interesting story how I got a $40,000 deal with this one thing that I noticed. And once I noticed this, everything changed. All right. So I'm having this conversation with a potential client. It just seemed like his ideas and what he wanted and what I was going to offer didn't match at all. So we're going about this point. I think I'm in his office and we're going for about maybe 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes so far, going back and forth, and I just knew that we were not connecting. And the way I knew this is because of the body language. Obviously, communication, the majority of communication is, some of it is verbal, but the majority is non-verbal communication. So we're both seated and he's seated at his desk and his body is like leaning away from me while I was really facing him forward. I was facing him forward, trying to figure out exactly how we could help him. And at this point, like I said, the conversation was going around in circles and circles and circles. So finally, I remembered something that Coach Andrew has taught me when it comes to communication styles. There's actually 3 main communication styles, and I will go through each one of them briefly. The first one is somebody could be very visual. So visual are typically people who use words such as, imagine this, do you see what I'm saying? I can picture what you're saying, all right? Those are great examples. They tend to be a little bit faster speaker. That's actually one of the top categories. I think it's about 40% of the population are visual speakers or visual communicators. So this is how they communicate not only internally, but also externally. So this is the type of people, they have to look good no matter what, especially in public. So what that means is, let's just say, for example, we're to take the garbage out. Well, they can't take the garbage out. For example, like me, I might just show up in my underwear, just bring out the garbage to the curb. Other people, I say, you know what, I have to look properly in order to do so. Or they might, for example, wear lipsticks, even though they're just going to meet a friend or a family where it doesn't really merit that type of attention or that type of, I guess, cosmetic looks. The second portion of the people who are typically communicators are people who are a lot more kinesthetic, and that means like they're more about feeling and they tend to speak a lot slower. So examples are, I feel like you get what I'm saying. I can really get a good handle of what you're trying to explain to me. Another example might be, I am really grounded with the way this plan is working out. So these are the people who are typically a lot slower in speaking because it's about how they feel. They are not about attire or the way they look. They will dress to be comfortable. They will have things in their reach to be comfortable. A great example is, you might see this in the email. So for, again, just going back briefly, the visual might be, I'll see you later. And then for somebody who is more of a kinesthetic, they might say, I'll catch you later. So these are indications of the communication styles. Now there's finally a last category, which is the auditory. So visual is 40% of the population. Kinesthetics about 40% of the population, and auditory is about only 20% of the population. Now, auditory people are people who are a little bit in between. If you can't really figure out which one they are, then they're really in between. And these are people who like words like connect, and they like words like sound, like that clicks. All right. So kinesthetic are a little bit slower, visual a lot fast-paced, and then of course you have auditory who is right in between, and this is only 20% of the population. Now I happen to be within the auditory. I like how things sound, so that is my go-to by default. So usually see in my emails, instead of saying I'll see you later, instead of saying I'll catch you later, I'll say it's great to connect, or I'll say like it sounds good. So anyways, so why is this all important, right? In terms of communication styles, as I'm going back and forth with this person, and I never realized until really I remember, good thing I remember that Coach Andrea suggested this, was to go ahead and figure out what is the communication style that the other person has. And the reason why it's so important is because if you can communicate the way that they are familiar, not only internally, but also externally, what that happens is give you much more of an advantage in order to communicate the way they like to be communicated with, which means they are more familiar, which means that they're more likely to say yes when it comes to an offer. So as we're having a conversation back and forth, and then I finally realized that this person is highly kinesthetic, and I wasn't communicating in my proper way, well, the ones I'm most familiar and comfortable with, which was the auditory way. And finally what happened was I remembered this, and then finally I just paused for a second as he, just to let you know, I couldn't really remember what he was saying because I was so in my head trying to figure out how the heck do I get this person to click with me, to connect with me in a way that makes sense to the offer to go through. And then finally, I just paused for a second and I thought, you know what? I think I really get what you're saying. And I think I can really get a handle on what we can do together. And I would love to ground my feet to be able to understand better what the plan is or what you had in mind that will be able to bring us together, hands together, everything that will work really well together. And at that point, everything just shifted. So his body that was sitting over there, his body was shifted, and then he had a swivel chair. So he was like, and he leans towards me and goes, yes, that's exactly it. And sure enough, at that point, I walked away with a $40,000 deal. So what's the lesson for you today? Well, the lesson is communicate with the people that you think is the best way that they would love to be communicating. And like I said, those are certain clues that I gave you on how you can be able to figure out communication styles are the most appropriate one and which ones that resonates best with you. Now, why is this so important in leadership? Is there are different ways in leadership that you can communicate. And of course, if you revert back to the way that you normally communicate, then you will have a smaller impact at that point. But if you want, like I said, to be able to impact 1 million entrepreneurs, or your team in this case, people that can help you grow your business, then remember that there are different ways of communication styles that people like. And even though sometimes, like I said, some people may not communicate verbally what they're saying, in writing, like I said in the email, the way you typed as well, it might sound exactly the way they are processing it internally. So I hope you like what you saw today. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you do enjoy the video, then there's more content for you next time.